The Increment. The Increment is a covert military black ops organisation working for the UK's Department of Defence. They are a group of soldiers often recruited from Special Forces and the SAS, and closely work with Britain's intelligence services and the MI6. Their main purpose is to provide UK military and intelligence services with operations that can easily be denied by the British government if their missions are compromised. Since their establishment, the elite force has been linked to operations in Libya, the death of Princess Diana, and the suicide of Dr. David Kelly. But much of this is hearsay. What are the facts? The Increment's involvement in world affairs is well documented. These are the top three. It has long been thought that the Increment was heavily involved in British operations in Libya. An article published on the BBC reports that quiet Special Forces soldiers were blending in with rebel fighters termed E Squadron. A Whitehall insider is documented saying that the Increment is well known within the Special Forces community but has not hitherto been discussed publicly. The Increment was formed 5 years ago to work closely with the intelligence service MI6 and is mainly involved in missions where maximum discretion is required. The BBC article goes on to describe how Libyans had sophisticated British coordination provided by the Increment. But who are the Increments really? It is believed that the Increment's ranks feature SAS and SBS operatives. The closest we have ever reached into revealing their identities and confirming their existence happened in Libya in March 2011, where 6 suspected Increment members were captured in Benghazi. The 6 soldiers were captured after trying to infiltrate into Libya under the guise of diplomatic bodyguards. The Sunday Times reported that the unit was trying to put UK diplomats in touch with rebels trying to topple the Gaddafi regime. The UK government naturally denied the existence of covert operations in Libya and refuted any claim of Increment operations. Details of the Increment's involvement in Iraq are a little bit more sparse. However, they have been linked to the suicide of Dr. David Kelly. David Kelly was a British scientist and expert on biological warfare, employed by the British Ministry of Defence and formerly a United Nations weapons inspector in Iraq. It was widely believed that he would expose the British government of inventing the WMD scare. He was asked to testify in court. 2 days later, he was found dead in a forest in Oxfordshire. This led to the Hutton inquiry, which quickly concluded that David Kelly had committed suicide and then classified all documentation under the Official Secrets Act for a minimum of 70 years. This blanket of secrecy thrown over the case by the UK government has only fueled the sense of mystery. So what is the link between David Kelly and the Increment? Well, the suicide was seen as extremely suspicious by numerous renowned doctors within the UK. It turns out David Kelly's death certificate had numerous anomalies, which the Hutton inquiry could never really answer to. The most important of which was the certificate was never signed by a doctor or a coroner officially certifying his suicide, as there is doubt that the cause of death, the wounds to his left wrist, would not have caused him to bleed to death. Norman Baker, in his book about the event, suggests a covert military organisation was involved in orchestrating Dr. Kelly's suicide and suggests that the Increment was involved. Diana, Princess of Wales, the People's Princess. 31st of August 1997, Diana dies in a horrific car crash in the Alma Tunnel, Paris, France, involving a drunk driver. Diana was mortally injured, dying in hospital 3.5 hours later. An inquest into her death was conducted shortly after and numerous discrepancies were unearthed. The 44 CCTV cameras within the Alma Tunnel failed to capture any footage. Diana wrote a letter to her butler, Paul Burrell, just before the accident, claiming that her life was in danger. Intriguingly, Henry Paul, the accused driver that caused the crash, was not Diana's official driver and stepped in at the last minute. Henry Paul died during the crash, but a post-mortem revealed that he had medicine in his blood called albendazole. The medicine cannot be bought over the counter, and Henry Paul's doctor said that it was never prescribed. Albendazole is a drug taken to get rid of tapeworms and given to downers on the street. The question is, could they have come from a dead Paris tramp lying in the public mortuary? Richard Tomlinson, a former MI6 agent, alleged that agents had been monitoring Diana and that her death mirrored plans he saw in 1992 for the assassination of the president of Serbia. Witness Françoise Levis said a white flash of light was directed at the couple's Mercedes, causing the crash. RCAD 3177 refers to a crime number generated by Scotland Yard in 2013 in response to emergence of new evidence about the Diana case. Alan Power, a journalist, interviewed a former SAS soldier who claims to have served in an assassination team known as the Increment. The soldier described the Increment as a secret paramilitary organization comprising of troops from the SAS and SBS military for the purposes of carrying out lethal operations. So does the Increment actually exist? In light of the evidence, there seems to be a shadow organization within the Department of Defense in charge of deniable operations. It consists of hardened military personnel recruited from the British Special Forces. Concrete evidence will never exist due to the need for deniability.